Before we begin, if you're finding peace through these sessions, we'd love for you to take a moment, when you're awake, of course, to leave a review and subscribe on whatever channel you're listening on. Your support helps others discover this space and join our journey to restful sleep. Welcome to Slothful Slumber, the podcast where we transform the vast knowledge of the internet into a gentle lullaby for your mind. I'm your host, Luna Dreamwell, and I'm here to guide you on a journey to tranquility through the soothing cadence of Wikipedia articles. Each episode will delve into the most wonderfully mundane and sleep-inducing topics, helping you drift off into a realm of serene dreams. So find your comfortable space, close your eyes, and let the dull hum of information carry you into a restful slumber. This Wikipedia article is titled, Moustache. A moustache is a growth of facial hair grown above the upper lip and under the nose. Moustaches have been worn in various styles throughout history. Etymology. The word moustache is French and is derived from the Italian mustaccio, 14th century, dialectal mustaccio, 16th century, from medieval Latin mustachium, 8th century, medieval Greek moustachion, attested in the 9th century, which ultimately originates as a diminutive of Hellenistic Greek mystax, meaning upper lip or facial hair, probably derived from Hellenistic Greek milon, lip. An individual wearing a moustache is said to be mustached or mustachioed. History. Research done on this subject has noticed that the prevalence of moustaches and facial hair in general rise and fall according to the saturation of the marriage market. Thus, the density and thickness of the moustache or beard may help to convey androgen levels or age. Earliest depictions of moustache trace back to ancient Egypt Old Kingdom era, circa 2649 to 2130 BC. One of the earliest documents of the usage of moustaches without the beard can be traced to Iron Age Celts. According to Diodorus Siculus, a Greek historian, the Gauls are tall of body with rippling muscles and white of skin, and their hair is blonde, and not only naturally so, for they also make it their practice by artificial means to increase the distinguishing color which nature has given it. For they are always washing their hair in lime water, and they pull it back from the forehead to the nape of the neck, with the result that their appearance is like that of satyrs and pans, since the treatment of their hair makes it so heavy and coarse that it differs in no respect from the mane of horses. Some of them shave the beard, but others let it grow a little. And the nobles shave their cheeks, but they let the moustache grow until it covers the mouth. Moustaches persisted during the Middle Ages. One prominent example of the moustache in early medieval art is the Sutton Hoo helmet, an elaborately decorated helmet sporting a faceplate depicting the style on its upper lip. Later on, Welsh leaders and English royalty, such as Edward of Wales, would also often wear only a moustache. Moustache popularity in the West peaked in the 1880s to 1890s, coinciding with a vogue for military virtues. Various cultures have developed different associations with moustaches. For example, in many 20th century Arab countries, moustaches are associated with power, while beards are associated with Islamic traditionalism, and a lack of facial hair with more liberal, secular tendencies. In Islam, trimming the moustache is considered to be a sunnah and mustahab, that is, a way of life that is recommended, especially among Sunni Muslims. The mustache is also a religious symbol for the male followers of the Yarsan religion. Shaving with stone razors was technologically possible from as far back as Neolithic times. A mustache is depicted on a statue of the 4th dynasty Egyptian prince Rahotep, circa 2550 BC. Another ancient portrait showing a shaved man with a mustache is an ancient Iranian Scythian horseman from 300 BC. In ancient China, facial hair and the hair on the head were traditionally left untouched because of Confucian influences. Development and care. The mustache forms its own stage in the development of facial hair in adolescent males. As with most human biological processes, this specific order may vary among individuals depending on genetic heritage or environment. Mustaches can be tended through shaving the hair of the chin and cheeks, preventing it from becoming a full beard. A variety of tools have been developed for the care of mustaches, including safety razors, mustache wax, mustache nets, mustache brushes, mustache combs, and mustache scissors. In the Middle East, there is a growing trend for mustache transplants, which involves undergoing a procedure called follicular unit extraction in order to attain fuller and more impressive facial hair. The longest mustache measures 4.29 meters, 14.1 feet, and belongs to Ram Singh Chauhan from India. It was measured on the set of the Italian TV show Lo Show dei Record in Rome, Italy, on April 4th, 2010. Styles. The World Beard and Mustache Championships 2007 had 6 subcategories for mustaches. Dali. Narrow, long points, bent or curved steeply upward. Areas past the corner of the mouth must be shaved. Artificial styling aids needed. Named after Salvador Dali. English mustache. Narrow, beginning at the middle of the upper lip. The whiskers are very long and pulled to the side, slightly curled. The ends are pointed slightly upward. Areas past the corner of the mouth, usually shaved. Artificial styling may be needed. Freestyle. All mustaches that do not match other classes. The hairs are allowed to start growing up to a maximum of 1.5 centimeters beyond the end of the upper lip. Aids are allowed. Hungarian. Big and bushy, beginning from the middle of the upper lip and pulled to the side. The hairs are allowed to start growing up to a maximum of 1.5 centimeters beyond the end of the upper lip. Imperial. Whiskers growing from both the upper lip and cheeks, curled upward, distinct from the royale or imperial. Natural. Mustache may be styled without aids. Other types of mustache include chevron, covering the area between the nose and the upper lip, out to the edges of the upper lip but no further. Popular in the 1970s and 1980s American and British culture. Worn by Ron Jeremy, Richard Petty, Freddie Mercury, Bruce Forsyth, and Tom Selleck. Fu Manchu. Long downward pointing ends, generally beyond the chin. Handlebar. Bushy, with small, upward pointing ends. Horseshoe. Often confused with the handlebar mustache, the horseshoe was popularized by modern cowboys and consists of a full mustache with vertical extensions from the corners of the lips down to the jawline and resembling an upside-down horseshoe, also known as biker mustache. Worn by Hulk Hogan and Bill Kelleher. Recently repopularized by Gardner Minshew and Joe Exotic. Pancho Villa, similar to the Fu Manchu but thicker, also known as a droopy mustache, also similar to the horseshoe. A Pancho Villa is much longer and bushier than the mustache normally worn by the historical Pancho Villa. Pencil mustache, narrow, straight, and thin, as if drawn on by a pencil, closely clipped, outlining the upper lip, with a wide shaven gap between the nose and mustache. Popular in the 1940s, and particularly associated with Clark Gable. More recently, it has been recognized as the mustache of choice for the fictional character Gomez Addams in the 1990s series of films based on The Addams Family, also known as a mouth brow and worn by Vincent Price, John Waters, Little Richard, Sean Penn, and Chris Cornell. Toothbrush, thick but shaved, except for about an inch, 25 millimeters, in the center, worn by Charlie Chaplin, Oliver Hardy, and Adolf Hitler, the latter being responsible for the style becoming extremely unpopular and remaining so for nearly a century. Walrus, bushy, hanging down over the lips, often entirely covering the mouth, worn by Mark Twain, David Crosby, Joseph Stalin, John Bolton, Wilfred Brimley, Friedrich Nietzsche, Jeff Skunk Baxter, Sam Elliott, Albert Einstein, Jamie Heineman, and Robert Johansson. Pornstache, a thick, heavy mustache with slightly elongated ends. The style originates among male pornographic actors in the 1970s and was most popular in the 1980s. The pornstache has been worn by celebrities such as Freddie Mercury, Lionel Richie, and Pedro Pascal. Occurrence and perceptions. Like many other fashion trends, the mustache is subject to shifting popularity through time. Though modern culture often associates mustaches with men of the Victorian era, Susan Walton shows that at the start of the Victorian era, facial hair was viewed with distaste, and that the mustache was considered the mark of an artist or revolutionary, both of which remained on the social fringe at the time. This is supported by the fact that only Member of Parliament sported facial hair from the years 1841 to 1847. However, by the 1860s, this had changed, and mustaches became wildly popular, even among distinguished men. But by the end of the century, facial hair became passé once more. Walton speculates that the rise of the trend was due largely in part to the impending war against Russia and the belief that mustaches and beards projected a more manly image, brought about by the rebranding of the British military and the rehabilitation of military virtues. Mustaches became a defining trait of the British soldier, and until 1916, no enlisted soldier was permitted to shave his upper lip. However, the next generation of men perceived facial hair to be an outdated emblem of masculinity, and therefore there was a dramatic decline in the mustache trend, and a clean-shaven face became the mark of a modern man. Marriage. According to a study performed by Nigel Barber, results have shown a strong correlation between a good marriage market for women and an increased number of mustaches worn by the male population. By comparing the number of males pictured in Illustrated London News sporting a mustache against the ratio of single women to single men, the similar trends in the two over the years suggest that these factors are correlated. Barber proposes that this correlation may be due to men with mustaches being perceived as more attractive, industrious, creative, masculine, dominant, and mature by both men and women, as supported by research conducted by Hellstrom and Tekla. These perceived traits may influence a woman's choice of husband, suggesting likely high reproductive success and other favorable biological qualities. When males must compete heavily for marriage, they are more likely to grow a mustache to project these qualities. This theory is also supported by the correlation between beard fashion and women wearing long dresses, as shown by Robinson's study, which in turn relates to the marriage market correlation shown in Barber's 1999 study. Age perception. The mustache and other forms of facial hair are globally understood to be signs of the post-pubescent male. However, those with mustaches are perceived to be older than those who are clean-shaven of the same age. This was determined by manipulating a photo of 6 male subjects with varying levels of baldness to have mustaches and beards, then asking undergraduate college students to rate both versions of each photo in terms of social maturity, aggression, age, appeasement, and attractiveness. Regardless of how bald the subject was, the perception findings remained constant. Males with facial hair were perceived as older than the same subject without facial hair, and mustachioed subjects were also perceived as far less socially mature, possibly due to an increased perception of aggression in mustachioed men, as aggression is incompatible with social maturity. Workplace. In a study by J. A. Reed and E. M. Blunk, persons in management positions were shown to positively perceive, and therefore be more likely to hire, men with facial hair, although men with beards overall scored better than men with only mustaches. Mustached men scored much higher than those who were clean-shaven. In this experiment, 228 management personnel were shown ink sketches of 6 male job applicants, ranging from clean-shaven to mustachioed to bearded. Men with facial hair were rated higher by employers on aspects of masculinity, maturity, physical attractiveness, dominance, self-confidence, nonconformity, courage, industriousness, enthusiasm, intelligence, sincerity, and general competency. Results were similar for both female and male employers, implying gender does not factor into perceptions of a mustache on a male applicant. However, Blunk and Reed note that the meaning and acceptability of facial hair changes over time. Studies by Hellstrom and Tekla and Klaproth suggest mustaches are not favorable to all professions, as clean-shaven men are seen as more reliable in roles, such as salesmen and professors. Other studies suggest acceptability of facial hair varies by culture and location. In Brazil, clean-shaven men were preferred by personnel managers over those with beards, goatees, or mustaches. Cultures. In Western culture, it has been shown that women dislike men who display a visible mustache or beard, but prefer men who have a visible hint of a beard, such as stubble, over those who are clean-shaven. This supports the idea that women prefer men capable of cultivating facial hair but choosing not to. Some researchers suggest that in ecologies where physical aggressiveness is more adaptive than cooperation, bearded, and thus mustachioed, men might be preferred. Even within the U.S., discrepancies exist. A study at the University of Chicago found women preferred men with facial hair as more masculine, sophisticated, and mature, while a study in Wyoming showed a preference for clean-shaven men. Differences may relate to region, rurality, and political and social conservatism. Religions. In addition to cultural differences, religion alters perception of the mustache with some traditions supporting facial hair growth and others discouraging it. Amish. Amish men grow beards after marriage and never trim them, but eschew mustaches and continue shaving their upper lips. This practice rejects the German military fashion of sporting mustaches, prevalent when the Amish community formed in Switzerland, serving as a symbol of pacifism. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Although the Church does not explicitly require male members to be clean-shaven, within Latter-day Saint circles it is often considered taboo for men to have mustaches. Missionaries are required to be clean-shaven, and Brigham Young University's Honor Code requires similar grooming standards. Members who do choose mustaches often feel they do not fit the norm. Yet studies by Nielsen and White report they do not mind this feeling and continue to grow facial hair.
Islam.
Although facial grooming is not specifically mentioned in the Quran, numerous hadith address personal hygiene, including facial hair maintenance. In one narration, Muhammad advised men must grow beards and trim mustaches so they do not cover the upper lips, a practice regarded as fitra, the tradition of the prophets. Thus, growing a beard while keeping the mustache from covering the upper lip is a well-established tradition in many Muslim societies. Notable mustaches. Individuals. The longest mustache measures 4.29 meters, 14.1 feet, and belongs to Ram Singh Chauhan of India. It was measured on the set of Low Show Dei record in Rome on April 4, 2010. In some cases, the mustache is so prominently identified with a single individual, it could identify him without further traits. For example, Kaiser Wilhelm II's mustache, grossly exaggerated, featured prominently in Triple Entente propaganda. Other notable individuals include Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Saddam Hussein, Hulk Hogan, Don Fry, Dan Severn, Freddie Mercury, Salvador Dali, Theodore Roosevelt, Frank Zappa, Sam Elliott, Tom Selleck, Burt Reynolds, and Steve Harvey. In other cases, such as Charlie Chaplin and Groucho Marx, the mustache was artificial for most of the wearer's life. Following a moped accident that left him with a scar on his upper lip, Paul McCartney decided to grow a mustache to hide it. The other members of the Beatles did the same. They were first seen with this new look on the cover of their 1967 album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, marking the return of young men wearing mustaches in the 1960s. In art, entertainment, and media. Alias. Moustache was the alias of French comic actor François Alexandre Galipedes, born 14 February 1929, died 25 March 1987, known for his roles in Paris Blues, 1961, How to Steal a Million, 1966, and Zorro, 1975. Fictional characters. Mustaches have long been used by artists to make characters distinctive, as with Charlie Chan, Mario, Daniel Plainview, Omni-Man, Mike Haggar, Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, King Bradley, Ned Flanders, Ron Swanson, Saxton Hale, Hercule Poirot, Ted Lasso, The Lorax, Yosemite Sam, and Snidely Whiplash. The Bollywood film Sharabi had a character, Nathulal, whose mustache became a legend. Munchan Hon to Nathulal Jaisi, Warna Nahon. Mustaches should be like Nathulal's or should not be at all, became one of the most quoted dialogues from the film. At least one fictional mustache has been so notable, a whole style is named after it. The Fu Manchu Moustache. In the children's series, In the Night Garden, Mr. Pontopine has an oversized fake mustache which covers his mouth. In the episode titled Mr. Pontopine's Mustache Flies Away, his fake mustache flies off, but he retrieves it later. Literature. In 1954, Salvador Dalí published a book dedicated solely to his mustache. Visual art. They have also been used to make social or political points, as with Marcel Duchamp's LHOOQ, 1919, a parody of the Mona Lisa, which adds a goatee and mustache. Frida Kahlo's mustachioed self-portraits. In the military. In the Indian Army, most senior rifle Rajputana regiment soldiers have mustaches, and the Rajputana mustache is a symbol of dignity, caste status, and the spirit of Rajput soldiers. Mustaches are also noted among U.S. Army armor and cavalry soldiers. Mustaches were a compulsory part of the British Army uniform until 1916, and were often worn by soldiers later in the Falklands Campaign. In sport. In the early 1970s, Major League Baseball players seldom wore facial hair. As detailed in the book Moustache Gang, Oakland Athletics owner Charlie Finley held a mustache growing contest within his team. When the A's faced the Cincinnati Reds, whose team rules forbade facial hair, in the 1972 World Series, the series was dubbed the Hairs versus the Squares. For the 2008 Summer Olympic Games in Beijing, the Croatia men's national water polo team grew mustaches in honor of coach Ratko Rudic. During the 2012 Summer Olympic Games in London, Chilean supporters painted mustaches on their skin to support gymnast Tomás González. NHL player George Parros was so well known for his mustache that replicas were sold by his team, with proceeds going to charity. Formula One driver Nigel Mansell wore a famous chevron mustache during his racing career. While he shaved it off after retirement, he later grew it back. NASCAR legend Dale Earnhardt was well known for his mustache.